Before we get started, just a note that today's episode touches on themes of depression and suicide. From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. At age 45, Colorado author Becky Jensen's life seemed great. She was raising 2 sons, engaged to be married. Yet she was struggling quietly with depression and thoughts of suicide, although she didn't know exactly what was wrong. Hoping to find clarity, Becky decided to take a bold step. She shouldered a backpack and set out to hike all 500 miles of the Colorado Trail, essentially alone. Along the way, she confronted dangers in the wilderness and her own feelings of low self-worth and repressed trauma. What began for her as an escape turned into a journey toward healing, and ultimately a memoir of her experience called No Man's Land, Unpacking One Woman's Worth on the Colorado Trail, which is out now. Becky, who lives in Fort Collins, joined me to talk about her 5-week journey and what led up to her taking this unusual step.
It was like the perfect storm, I think, looking back, of course, with 2020 vision.
Of course.
I was a freelance writer at the time. I was also on social media and working really hard to carefully curate how my life looked on paper. And on paper, it looked pretty darn good. But underneath it all, behind the scenes, I was incredibly sad, and I had no idea why. This was all happening around the time of menopause for me as well. So that means hormonal changes, lack of sleep. All of this was combining to put me in a true existential midlife crisis where I thought very dark thoughts about, can I go on like this? I feel trapped. I feel like I need to escape. I felt invisible.
I'm curious if you had tried other approaches like therapy or medication.
That's a great question. At that point in my life, I was so stoic. You know, when we're told, we're raised that we don't go to a therapist, we're stronger than that. I don't take medication to help myself, so I had all that conditioning running through my head. I actually talked to my doctor who said, we're in a dangerous place here with your depression. And I said, no, I'm not going to take the meds, and thought, okay, I'm going to try and fix this myself. Now, I do want to point out, because I hiked the trail and really walked through and thought through some things, I realized, gosh, I need professional help. And I found a therapist after the trail.
I was thinking a lot of people handle a crisis, especially happening in midlife, by doing things like taking up a new hobby, like painting or cooking, or maybe going out and buying a sports car.
Right.
What made you decide that the way to handle your crisis was to do this 5-week, 500-mile hike basically by yourself?
My subconscious was just gathering bits and pieces of what I had seen of I saw another woman who had completed the trail, and she felt so empowered. She felt so changed by it. And I was craving, even though I couldn't articulate it at the time, I was craving big change in my life. So I was like, I need to prove to myself that I love myself, that self-care is a priority in my life.
Well, let's talk about your journey. It was 5 weeks. You started on July 6th. I want to jump ahead to day 26 of your Colorado Trail hike. This is the chapter in the book that you call Bad Judgment Day. You were planning to meet your fiancé that afternoon, but you have to make your way across this very dangerously exposed ridge. Storms are brewing. Could you just put us in that scene? Help us picture what that looked like.
Sure. And to put it in context, this was day 26 out of about 35 or 36 days that I hiked the trail. So this is, I'm pretty well into my trail by this point. You might think, oh, she's figuring stuff out. But what happens on the trail, as in life, is that these lessons that we're not quite getting keep coming back to us.
Mm.
to learn. And so what happened was I was planning to meet my fiance. I had to hike across this high altitude plateau called Snow Mesa. It's about 4 miles in duration. It is all above 12,000 feet. On a clear day, it's a beautiful, easier hike.
Hmm.
Backpackers really look forward to it. But if it's a lightning storm in an afternoon, it's incredibly dangerous. It could kill you. On that day, I decided when I knew an electrical storm was swirling about me, I decided to hike across Snow Mesa in the middle of it because I had told my fiance I would meet him on the other side. I didn't want him to be inconvenienced.
Right.
I didn't stop and say, I need to take care of myself. I pushed through a very dangerous situation because I was putting the man in my life first. Again, a choice that I made.
Hmm.
And this is what I like. A lot of readers will go, no, Becky, no, don't do it. This is how powerful I feel conditioning is.
Hmm.
That I put my life in danger to make his life easier.
Hmm.
And this is not a finger pointer against men. It is hoping to explain and shed light to the men in our lives of sometimes the decisions that we make in our head that we do not articulate, we do not explain verbally, but that we are making in order to please them.
Well, we don't want to spoil the ending here for people who have not yet read No Man's Land, but could you just share a couple of ways that hiking the Colorado Trail helped heal you and maybe reshape some relationships?
There's so many things to talk about here. It's a great question. I feel like it rewired me in a lot of ways. It helped me unpack a lot of that gender conditioning.
Hmm.
I didn't figure out not just if I wanted to live, but how I wanted to live my life. That's a huge shift. And also, I learned how to parent differently.
And Becky, what do you most hope people will take away from reading your book?
I want them to know that this is a hopeful story. I started at a low place, but with each mile on the trail, I am unpacking kind of this heavy weight of expectations that I put on myself, that society put on me as a woman, and that each mile I get stronger and more clear-eyed. There's humor in it. There's quiet reflection in it. There's me actually, saying my piece, so that by the time you reach the end, there's a hopeful message. I think it's a positive story that has a very satisfying ending.
That's Colorado author Becky Jensen talking with me about her new book, No Man's Land, which tells the story of her 500-mile journey to find herself on the Colorado Trail. Becky will be giving a book talk and slideshow this coming Thursday, April 9th at Wolverine Farm Public House in Fort Collins. You'll find details on that and her book in the show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.